Okay, class, picking up where we left off at. We were on B. We said convert 504.7 meters to kilometers. We went to meters, and we had to move 3 places to the left. So that means we needed to move 3 places to the left here, which gives us 0.5047 kilometers. And that is the final answer for that question. Now, we scroll on to C. It says convert 27 meters to centimeters. So what we would do is we would have our 27 meters to centimeters. Now I took the liberty of putting a chart here. So we want to go from meters to centimeters. So we would go 2 places to the right. So that means that we will move our decimal 2 places to the right. And remember, when you don't see a decimal, it's always assumed to be a decimal at the end of the number. So we would take 27, move the decimal 2 places to the right, and that will give us 2,700 centimeters. And that is the final answer. Now we scroll on. It says use dimensional analysis to change to and from the metric system. Now we're given these measurements here, and we know when we divide it by itself, that equals to 1, which is shown down here. And then now we have the English and metric equivalents, which we have here in this chart. And now we need to move on to our example. So now we come down here to our examples. Now, it says convert 225 miles to kilometers. So what we would need to do here, we would take 225 miles, and we will put it over 1, and we will multiply it to, now we want to go from miles to kilometers. Now you see here we have 1 mile is equivalent to 1.6 kilometers, or approximately. So we will put 1 mile, and we will have 1.6 kilometers. Now we will multiply this. So we can take our calculator, move it over here, and we would take 225 multiplied by 1.6, and that gives us 360. So now we will have 360 over 1, and that's kilometers. And so our final answer would be 360 kilometers. And we're done with this problem here, because miles will simplify out. Now we come here to E. Now E states convert 26,800 millimeters to inches. So we will add 26,800 over 1 millimeters. Now we want to change millimeters to inches. Now we come here, 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. So what we would do is we would change millimeters to centimeters and then centimeters to inches. So it takes 10 millimeters to equal 1 centimeter. That was stated early on in this exercise. And then now we need to get rid of centimeters and change it to inches. It takes 2.54 centimeters. It looks like I'm not going to have enough room. So let me rewrite this. So we will have 26,800 millimeters all over 1. Multiplied, it takes 10 millimeters to equal 1 centimeter. Multiplied, it takes 2.54 centimeters to equal 1 inch. Millimeters simplify out, centimeters simplify out. So we will add 26,800 all over 10 times 2.54 is 25.4, and this is all inches. Now we would take our calculator, and we would take 26,800 divided by 25.4. And that gives us approximately, we could round to 2 decimal places. It'll be 1,055.12. So it'll be approximately 1,055.12 inches. And that is our final answer. Now, we go down here to B, using the same chart. It says convert 44 yards to meters. So we will have our 44 yards. So we want to convert that to meters. So now we look here. We have yards to meters. So it would take 1 yard to equal 0.9 meters. So these yards will simplify out. 44 times 0.9, we use our calculator. 44 times 0.9. That would give us 39.6. And that would be meters, because we know that this will be over 1, so this will be the final answer. Now we have convert 75 miles per hour to kilometers per hour. So now, this really means 75 miles per 1 hour. Now let's change these miles to kilometers. Now we know it takes 1 mile to equal 1.6 kilometers. So now we took care of the miles. Now we want to change hours to minutes. So in 1 hour, we know it's 60 minutes. So now look here, miles simplify with miles, and hours simplify with hours, and it will leave us kilometers per minute. So we'll take 75 times 1.6, and that will give us 120, divided by 1 times 1 is 1 times 60 is 60. 120, so this will be 120 kilometers over 60 minutes. So we will have 120 divided by 60 minutes, so this will give us 2 kilometers per minute. Because we know this divides and equals 2. So let me write it down here to be 2 kilometers per minute. So this is our final answer. Now we scroll down here to C. Now with C it says convert 34 inches to centimeters. Now we will add 34 inches over 1 multiplied. Now we know it takes, let me scroll back up here and show the chart. For 1 inch, it takes 2.54 centimeters. Now these inches will simplify out, and then we would take our calculator and we will multiply 34 times 2.54, and that will give us 86.36 centimeters, because our denominator would be 1. Now we want to convert 125 miles to kilometers. So we would take 125 miles all over 1, and we will multiply this. We want to go from miles to kilometers. So for 1 mile is 1.6 kilometers. So we would take our calculator and we will multiply 125 times 1.6, and that will give us 200. So this will give us 200. We know these miles will simplify out. It'll be 200 kilometers, because that will give us 200 over 1. So that's 200 kilometers. Now we gotta convert 15 centimeters per second to miles per hour. So it's 15 centimeters per 1 second. And we want to change that to miles per hour. Now miles is in kilometers. So we need to figure out how many centimeters are in a kilometer. So what we need to do, we need to go back and get one of those charts from earlier when we did the metric conversion. So I took the liberty of putting this chart down here from earlier. And remember, we want to go from centimeters per second to miles per hour. So now we want to go from centimeters to kilometers, and then go from kilometers to miles. So if you go from centimeters to kilometers, You go 1, 2, 3, 4. It takes 10,000 centimeters to equal 1 kilometer. So what we would have here is we got 10,000 centimeters is equal to 1 kilometer. Okay, now we will multiply that. No, actually it would take 100,000 centimeters, not 10,000. Be 100,000 centimeters to equal 1 kilometer. Okay, now we want to change kilometers to miles. Now, from what I see here, it looks as though I'm not going to have enough room. So let me rewrite this here. I believe this should give me enough room. So 1 kilometer over 100,000 centimeters. Now, we want to change this kilometers to miles. So it would take us 1.6 kilometers to equal 1 mile. And now we want to change our seconds to hours. Now what we could do is this here. We know it takes 60 seconds to equal 1 minute and 60 minutes to equal an hour. So basically it takes 3,600 seconds to equal 1 hour. So now we can cross simplify. Centimeters, centimeters. Kilometers, kilometers. Seconds with seconds. So now we multiply. We will have 3,600 times 15, which will give us 54,000. Now that will be our numerator. Now we have to do our denominator. It'll be 100,000 times 1.6, and that would give us 160,000. Now if we simplify this, remember we could divide off these zeros here. 54 and 160 both has 2 in common. So that would be 27 over 80. And so now we could put this in our calculator, even though we could have done that originally anyway. So now we will have 0.3375. Since this is exact, we'll write out everything. So we will have, well, let me move this over a little bit. So I will have the room here. So we could write that final answer. So your final answer is 0.3375 miles per hour. And we are done.